I've highlighted this episode for a while. So I'm giving you guys what you want. Hello, guys. My name is Ethan Smith of the Locked On Pirates podcast. To my left, not my right, as usual, is Lindsay Crosby of the Locked On MLB Prospects podcast. And you could probably just guess by what show Lindsay hosts what we're talking about today, as I'm watching the Pirates game right now as we speak. And there's a certain somebody that's not in the lineup. We're going to talk about the Pirates prospects at length. We're going to talk about a 6'7" dinosaur who is still yet to be on the team, as well as some other players of interest in the farm system on the episode. And I figured let's just jump right into it, Lindsay. I'm going to let you go on your tirade because here in the Locked On MLB host chat on Twitter, I think Oneil Cruz's name gets mentioned by Lindsay at least 5 times a day. And if I can actually, for the sake of just screwing our privacy over at all, talk about something that was said in our chat today about what did he say? If you say it one more time, you need to get Oneil Cruz's name tattooed on your chest. So, Lindsay, go off, King. Just do your thing and talk about Oneil Cruz.
All right, so my large adult son, Oneil Cruz, has over 1,600 at-bats in the minor leagues. He's a 275, 341, 457 slash line. He's hit 56 home runs. I don't know what else you expect to see out of Oneil Cruz. You know what he is. Started off in 2016. He has been through every single level. What are you waiting on? And here's the thing to me. Okay, I understand he's 6'7", and you don't quite know what to do with that because he is the tallest shortstop in Major League Baseball history. But let him try it. Let him do it at the big league level. And you don't have to come up with excuses. I had the same tirade yesterday. We're talking Royals. I'm talking Vinny Pasquantino. Same tirade. Don't keep giving us reasons why he has to stay at the minor league level. Like, oh, well, we want him to learn some outfield and then don't play him in the outfield. Either bring him up or admit that you are keeping him down because you don't want to waste the service time or give us a reason. Just be honest about it. Because at this point in time, I don't know what else you expect to see from Oneil Cruz. He is 6'7". He has incredibly long arms. Because of that, he's sometimes going to swing and miss. But when he connects with a ball, he will literally put it into orbit.
Yeah. I mean, honestly,
he's better than Kevin Newman. Sorry. Okay, I'm done.
Well, Kevin Newman has also not played in some time, actually. He actually just got moved to the IL. I believe he was on the 10-day and then got moved to the 60-day. So he hasn't played in some time. So you've seen Josh Van Meter, who right now in his last 9 games is hitting .333. Rodolfo Castro, another prospect who you've seen a lot. Diego Castillo, another prospect that we've seen a lot, especially at shortstop, second base, and even some right field. Hoy Park, who just got optioned. You've seen some of him. They acquire, Tucupita Marcano, who first 2 games of his career hits 2 home runs, and then for some reason isn't in the lineup today. Couldn't tell you that one. And then they go and get Yu Chang from the Cleveland Guardians, who I like to mention last year had the second best OPS on the Cleveland Guardians after the All-Star break, only behind the amazing player that is Jose Ramirez. So it seems very odd to me that they're giving these guys chances like Castro, Castillo, Marcano, Sawinski, Mitchell, Contreras, De Los Santos. I mean, the list goes on and on about the guys that called up before they've brought up Oneil Cruz, including acquiring Josh Van Meter, including acquiring Yu Chang. And the only reasonable explanation I could say to it is Super 2. That's the only reasonable explanation I can give at this point. I don't know what day it kicks in, but I literally jokingly said this on my pod yesterday. I said it wouldn't surprise me if 30 seconds after Super 2 is over with, it wouldn't surprise me 30 seconds after that if O'Neal Cruz wasn't
Is up.
on the team. And then also to even add to it, Lindsay, he's not in the lineup tonight in Indianapolis, I believe, because he's dealing with a minor injury at the moment. That's what I read. But even then, man, it's like the logic I use with my parents, and my parents always ask me stuff about the Pirates. They always say, "Hey, what's going on? Like, who's this guy? Who's this guy?" So they asked me about O'Neal Cruz. They're like, "Why isn't he up yet?" So the logic that I gave them, I posed their question with a question. Would you rather a guy bat under the Mendoza line at the MLB level and get MLB at-bats and MLB experience and MLB playing time, or would you rather have a guy struggle in AAA and not get that same experience? I want you to answer that question too, because I feel like it's an interesting dynamic that a lot of people take into account.
Yeah, so the way that I kind of look at prospects and prospect development is you're not in AAA to get better.
No.
Most of the prospect development in the upper minors happens in AA, simply because that's where you're still focused on getting better. AAA for most organizations this is what our job is, to make sure the big league team wins. We're going to have those veterans who are on minor league deals. We're going to have the utility infielder. We're going to have that fourth outfielder kind of type. Those teams are not focused on making players better. They're half full of semi-washed up veterans and journeymen. So you're not doing him any favors at AAA. And then the issue is it's a different game in Major League Baseball. And in some ways, it's like the baseballs, the ballparks, like little things that you don't necessarily think about. These things are different at the big league level. Now AAA uses the same baseball, but for a while, it wasn't the same baseball in AAA as it was in the big leagues. Now they use it, but it's something where if you think he's going to struggle either way, let him struggle against the high level competition versus struggling against, in unfamiliar ballparks against guys he's not going to face because they're a quad A player, in lineups where he doesn't have the proper protection and things like that. Let him learn on the job. And I think you're on the dot with the Super 2, because what's going to happen, we don't know the date exactly. We never do. But MLB front offices kind of project this stuff out based on who's been called up and things like that. I think it's going to be a little bit of an earlier date this year. So usually it's somewhere between June 3rd and like June 23rd. And all of that, and how early or late it is, depends on how many prospects get called up mid-season. There's so many guys who got called up on opening day who are going to get the full year of service time that are not going to be part of this calculation. And so because of that, I think it's going to be a little bit earlier. And so I think maybe by second, third week of June, if you see O'Neal Cruz up in Pittsburgh, it's because that's the reason they were waiting, because they were worried they'd have to pay him something more than minimum wage one additional year, which is a terrible excuse.
But the funnier thing that we talked about before we started recording was the NL Rookie of the Year race is all up in arms right now. Nobody knows who's winning it. I mean, hell, Jack Sawinski's leading National League rookies in home runs right now. Nobody would have thought that. But at the end of the day, if I remember correctly, with this new CBA, they were going into the player-based incentives and on-field incentives. If O'Neal Cruz finishes second in NL Rookie of the Year, he still gets the bonus anyway. So it's something that I can't do on this podcast, but he's basically going to do that to the Pirates organization.
And if he wins it, he gets a full year of service time. So you might hold him down, and then he comes up, and if he wins Rookie of the Year, because right now it's Mackenzie Gore and Nolan Gorman and nothing else. Like, that's it. Yeah. And none of those guys have super huge cases for Rookie of the Year. If he comes up in 2 weeks and just tears it up and has a great season and wins Rookie of the Year, he gets the year of service time anyway, and then you look like dummies because you spent, 7 weeks without him on the roster, and it ended up working out the exact same. So that's the funniest. That's going to be the funniest possible outcome if it happens.
Oh, yeah, and it might. You never know. But at the end of the day, with the Pittsburgh Pirates being the way they are, I guess you could say that O'Neal Cruz is a lot like a diamond in the rough. You know, you don't get too many 6'7" shortstops out there all the time. But if you need to go to an original online jeweler, you know, check out Blue Nile. We are introducing BlueNile.com, the original online jeweler to high-income adults, primarily males 25 plus, looking to get engaged or gift fine jewelry to visit the website and convert into a Blue Nile customer. Does that sound like you? Are you trying to get engaged right now? I don't know. It's a really weird time. It's the middle of the summer. Most people get married in the fall, so you never know. At BlueDial.com, you can celebrate all of life's special moments, from creating the custom engagement ring of her dreams to gifting a classic and timeless jewelry piece, all at prices you won't find at a traditional jeweler. Of course, please, there are not two parts to this business. Wedding jewelry, or there are two parts. See, I'm all over the place because Blue Nile has me all over the place because I love Blue Nile. Even though I'm not buying a ring for anyone right now, there are two parts to this business: wedding jewelry and fine jewelry. And whether you're ready to pop the question or you're celebrating a milestone moment, fine jewelry is unique as her with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. So make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And Locked On Pirates listeners and Locked On MLB Prospects listeners get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive includes engagement, so use code Locked On. That's code Locked On. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. So shop stress-free and find your forever peace and go to BlueNile.com today. Again, Blue Nile always has you all over the place, but they want you to where you need to be at the end. And one thing I talked about yesterday on my Tuesday Q&A, or as I like to call it, Q&A Tuesday, I kept getting questions about O'Neal Cruz, obviously, and Mason Martin, and kind of filling team need. And you look at this Pirates team right now, they have a plethora of middle infielders. Not saying they're good. They just a plethora of middle infielders. Brian Reynolds is obviously your starting center fielder. Brian Hayes is obviously your franchise player for a while at third base. Then you have Ben Gamble and some other guys like Sawinski and Cal Mitchell who have filled voids. There's one position that I didn't name there, and that's first base. Mason Martin is another name that has popped up into a lot of feeds of Pirates fans because he's just doing good things in Indianapolis, as well as I mentioned yesterday, adding a power dynamic to this team would go a very long way in ensuring this team actually continues to play the baseball they're playing. Because moving station to station only gets you so far. O'Neal Cruz and Mason Martin, on the other hand, would bring you two power-hitting left-handed hitters in a lineup that desperately needs it. So, kind of asking this question the way I'm trying to formulate it to a prospect connoisseur, if you will, how much does need come into when you bring these guys up? So, like we've seen the Pirates, as I mentioned already, bring up Contreras, bring up De Los Santos, bring up Castillo, Sawinski, the list goes on and on. How much do you think need factors into that, though, especially for a team like the Pirates who more than likely will not be playing into late October this year?
So, unfortunately, I don't think it factors in as much as it should, as much as the financial considerations and service time considerations do. It's something I think that Cruz and Martin have a better case because they're lefties and because they do fill that void. Martin is kind of pigeonholed. He's your first base DH guy. He's not playing anywhere else. He doesn't run very well. Doesn't have a great arm. Doesn't have great defense. And I think with him, part of the concern that you see is his walk rate went down last year and his strikeouts went up. I think he hit close to 35% strikeout rate last year. And so this year, like, I think that's what they're concerned about. They're like, yeah, you can sell out for power, but at what point is it too much? And he's kind of on that line. I think at this point, what do you have to lose? I mean, you've called up just about everybody else who was considered possible to get called up this year, other than O'Neal Cruz and a Nick Gonzalez. You've called just about everybody else up. And so I'm at the point of bring them up, let them play. I mean, your own tagline, MLB, is let the kids play. Like, that's your thing. That is yours. But no. It's. I definitely think that you can make a baseball case for him. You need the lefty presence in the lineup, like you said. You need the power in the lineup, like you said. But you just also need a jolt of energy. You're not kind of getting. You've plugged some guys in and they haven't had the effect you want. So I guarantee you O'Neal Cruz will be a jolt of energy. But I think both the guys do it separately if you have to. I think both of them would provide a little bit of energy. You have we forget so often that these are 23-year-old, 24-year-old, 25-year-old guys. And this season is a grind. I mean, you're traveling all over the country. You're in 3 different cities every week. Having something to break the monotony and to bring some energy into the clubhouse is a good thing. And I think that both of these guys could do it. And with Mason Martin, he's not as precious of a prospect, if that makes sense. Like you're not worried about, if we call him up and things aren't perfect and he fails, we're going to ruin him. Because he's not a prospect that you've factored into your long-term plans as being key to your organization. So bring him up, let him try it. Even if it's only for a couple of weeks, he gets hot and then the league figures him out. Get some energy from it. Bring him up.
And that's kind of with it too. And you also brought up a phenomenal point about calling up pretty much everybody that could be called up at this point. Martin and Cruz, I would say, are the only 2 that you can make a valuable case for to say, why are these guys not up yet? Because, I mean, we'll get into it probably in the last part of this, but, I mean, at the end of the day, what do you have to lose? You keep saying that there's not really much to lose here. Again, the Pirates are in the midst of beating the Dodgers at Chavez Ravine in a series with a potential to sweep. And if they win this game tonight, while I'm watching it as we're recording today, or tonight as well here on Wednesday night, they're 5 games under 500. With the extra playoff spot, which I talked about at the beginning of the month of May, I said if they get to the middle of June or the end of June, which we are now in June, and they are in that same spot, 5 or 6 games under 500, is there a real case that with the additions of Mason Martin and O'Neal Cruz, that if they come up and play any sort of well, that the Pirates maybe buy at the deadline? Maybe they go out there and make a move for a guy, which that was one of the questions I got yesterday that I was also going to throw back at you, is say that somehow happens. The Pirates end up being competitive and say, okay, maybe we want to possibly take a shot at this. Looking top down from the Pirates prospect pool, who are some guys you think that would be of value for a MLB-ready player that the Pirates could be okay with, and to make me feel better, that I would be okay with losing out of our farm system?
Yeah, so really good question. I want to get to it. The point I want to make first is I hear so many, and this is not you. This is kind of like fans in general. I hear so many people talk about, well, we can go out and get some pieces, and if we perform a little bit better in the second half of the season, we can make the playoffs. Games in April and May count the exact same as games in August and September.
Yep.
And so if you end up looking back and the Pirates miss the playoffs by 3 games, think about if we had brought O'Neal Cruz up to start the year, could he have found us 3 games somewhere? Could he have impacted 3 games if we had a Mason Martin up here in beginning of June versus maybe after Super 2? Could we have won an extra game or 2 and ended up making that last spot? So that's a big thing. But for me, what I'm looking at from this system, if I'm thinking about guys I'm not afraid to lose, there's 2 ways to look at it. And it's thing number 1, you can sell a guy at a discount. Somebody who is possibly a little bit older for their point in the prospect path, and they're not worth full value, but you kind of have a little better idea. I'm thinking about like a Travis Swaggerty, somebody like that, where you're in AAA at 24. He hasn't been called up yet. There's probably a reason for that. The team probably has identified some sort of I'm not going to say defect, but something they want him to work on before they call him up. So that's one frame of mind you can do is you can say, let's take a prospect. We have quite a few outfielders in the system, whether it's a Lonnie White, whether it's I'm going to count Indy Rodriguez as an outfielder. I mean, he does some of everything, but we've got plenty of lower level guys. We have him in AAA. We've not used him. We've not called him up. Maybe he's a trade piece. And the other thing I would say is take one of those recent draftees that hasn't played a ton, and so there's still a lot of potential that can be projected. I'm not saying trade Bubba Chandler. He's not even playing right now, but think about, and I don't want to trade Henry Davis, honestly, but think about a more recent draft pick that, a 2020 guy, a 2021 guy hasn't had a ton of time in your system. While there's still some variability in projections, find out what team values that guy more than you do and sell at a premium to that team.
Yeah, and again, of course, it's a pipe dream, I think, for Pirates fans. Most of the people who listen to my podcast would probably be like, yeah, Ethan, you're delusional. Why would this team buy at the deadline? They did it a couple years ago. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility to think that they would do it again when they literally just did it 4 years ago for Chris Archer in one of the most lopsided trades in MLB history. Which I always say now, caveat, one of the most lopsided trades in MLB history the last 2 years. It's very, very, very possible that Tyler Glasnow never pitches a game for the Rays again. It's very possible. Shane Baz has been good. Also very possible that he doesn't stick that long with the Rays either. The other component of that trade, Austin Meadows, not even with the team anymore. So maybe that trade wasn't as bad as everybody likes to say it was. I always love to put that one in there. I like to have a little fun with it because everybody still loves to shove it in my face that they did that trade. But, it happens. But, of course, Lindsay Crosby is the host of the Locked On MLB Prospects podcast. And we already talked about the dumpster fire that is the NL Rookie of the Year. The AL Rookie of the Year, on the other hand, Jeremy Pena and Julio Rodriguez and a bunch of other guys all over the place over there. And if you have a little insider information from our hosts over at Locked On Astros or Locked On Mariners about Rodriguez or Pena winning Rookie of the Year, maybe you should put your money where your mouth is and go to betonline.ag. Of course, our partners at BetOnline continue to be the number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's NBA playoffs and the NBA Finals, which starts tomorrow, MLB baseball scores and futures, fights for MMA and UFC, and even next season's NFL futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. So head to the website today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. And, of course, BetOnline is where the game starts. So now going back to another point that I wanted to bring up. Just so you guys know, Lindsay loves talking about this stuff. He's a huge prospect guy. So you can imagine the Pirates are a very fun topic of interest with him because they have a top 5 farm system and all that. And as I spoke about yesterday on the podcast too, and I want Lindsay to get his thoughts in about it, you're seeing all of these players for the Pirates get called up now. Castillo, Sawinski, Marcano, Mitchell, De Los Santos, Contreras, Cruz, Martin. You're going to get all these guys at some point this year all on the 26-man roster. I would book that. Next year, Lindsay might be on this podcast like 30 times. Because, you're going to have the likes of Nick Gonzalez, Leovry Piguero, Quinn Priester, Carmen Majinski, Michael Burrows, who, I should add, has the best ERA among all minor league starting pitchers at the current moment. Other guys that you could mention as possibilities. Henry Davis. Maybe Lonnie White if he comes onto the scene very quickly. If Bubba Chandler gets through the system very quickly. You never know. You don't know. Tanaj Thomas is another guy that comes to mind. Kanan Smith and Jigba, who is currently on a 28 on-base streak right now at AAA.
I've heard that's good.
Yeah, it's very good. So going back to the the thing I just posed about the Pirates being buyers, could they again potentially be buyers at the deadline, even if they are out of contention, looking forward to the fact that you're going to have another slew of all these prospects come up next year to gel with these guys already who are getting a full year? This team could be very interesting next year if you're looking into it and it all plays out the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, I mean, think of prospects, and a lot of people in the prospect apparatus, and I'm probably part of this too. A lot of us think we overvalue our prospects. Like we don't, we pick them for a reason. We drafted them. We don't necessarily want to move any of them because we're believers in who they could be in their best case scenario.
Oh yeah,
but,
Quinn Priester is the next Jacob deGrom. What do you mean?
I mean, absolutely. But like, if you kind of step back and look at it, there's areas of depth where you can make moves from to make the big league team better. Because ultimately, having a top 5 farm system doesn't get you a medal. There's no trophy for it. I mean, it all comes down to winning at the big league level. And so, like, my first thought is you've got a top 5 pick in the draft. So at the trade deadline, who's to say you don't say, you know what, let's move one of these catchers. We're going to keep Henry Davis, but we've got an Indy Rodriguez. We've got options. We could move somebody because you have a top 5 pick to make a replacement. Maybe you decide, you know what, we can move an Indy Rodriguez in a deal because we can go out and get Kevin Parada at 4. We can go out and get Daniel Susak. We can take, some college hitter like we've done the last few drafts. And so I can buy the theory of the Pirates being buyers at the deadline, provided that they make the moves to win games so that they're in contention to buy. And I think the moves to make to be in contention to buy is call up O'Neal Cruz. Mm-hmm. I'm bringing everything back to O'Neal Cruz.
Yeah, and I mean, there's that as well, and I'm sure you have his baseball reference page pulled up. I don't right now. Can you actually fancy me for what his WAR is right now at the minor league level?
His WAR. Let's see here.
If it shows
tell you this,
that.
Yeah. Baseball reference. Hang on, it's here. I'm gonna have to scroll a little bit. I can tell you while I'm doing that he is 3 years older than the average. I'm sorry, 3 years younger than the average AAA guy. If that tells you anything about like what AAA is like compared to other levels. He's only 2 years younger than the average AA player, but he's 3 years younger than the average AAA player. It doesn't give me minor league WAR. It only gives me major league WAR. He's worth 0.1 major league WAR in his career.
Yeah, that's in
2 games.
Yeah, 2 games. That's very interesting that it doesn't give you that. But I mean, for the sake of just bringing it up, what's the difference? Let's say Mason Martin and O'Neal Cruz both had a WAR of 1.0. They just have a 1.0 wins above replacement. That equals 2. The last time I checked, that 1 + 1 = 2. 21 and 27, you add 2 wins to that. You're talking about you're talking about a very different ball game here if the Pirates are 23 and 25 versus being 21 and 27. Also, thank you MLB TV for bringing this up. Another reason to bring up O'Neal Cruz. The Pirates are doing probably the best promo I've ever seen in my entire life. $25 ballpark pass for the whole month of June. You can go to any game that you want to go to for $25 all month.
That's a great deal.
So why the hell not bring up O'Neal Cruz so people just buy $25? Like, you're just stamping the button. Boom, 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 boom. And something that even Gary Morgan, who is my usual Monday guest, brought up is he was talking about it at one point saying, go look at the media and how the games were like brought up on the program, or as they like to say on the Pat McAfee show on the program. It was player-centric during the 2013 through 2015 years. It was come see Andrew McCutchen, Starling Marte, Pedro Alvarez, Russell Martin, Francisco Liriano, AJ Burnett. Now it's Kids Day, ballpark pass, drone whatever the hell they're doing on Saturday. O'Neal Cruz is marketable. It's like going to the circus. Come see a 6'7" guy play baseball.
Play shortstop.
Yeah, like play shortstop, play baseball. Like you don't get to see that often. I mean, it's crazy to me, man. But any last thoughts on this Pirates farm system and what I should expect, not only as a podcast host and an analyst per se of this team, but as a fan looking for the rest of 2022 when Cruz eventually comes up?
Know that some of the guys that they've called up, we're very high on. Rowanzi Contreras. I mean, there's guys in this system with legitimate talent that will improve this big league team. We don't know. Obviously, we don't know when they're going to actually make it to Pittsburgh. Some of them we thought would already be up, but know that some of the losing has had a positive effect on the organization when it comes to talent accumulation, because you have a Nick Gonzalez, you have a Henry Davis, you have an O'Neal Cruz, you have a Quinn Priester, you have something in a Bubba Chandler. We don't know, but there's guys in the low minors. There's some guys in the high minors. There's a lot of interesting guys here, and there's enough pieces in this farm system to make a team that not only can make the playoffs but can contend for the division. You just have to figure out who's the right guy. So know that they're here. We just got to figure out which ones are the right ones and which ones are not. And the best way to do that is to let them try.
Oh yeah, and MLB's tagline, let the kids play. That's watching Pittsburgh Pirates baseball every day. Of course, Lindsay Crosby, you can find his work over at the Locked On MLB Prospects podcast. Of course, you can find that as wherever you find my podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Odyssey, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Lindsay not only talks about the awesome Pittsburgh Pirates system, but he talks about everything going on in the world of the minor leagues, the MILB, if you will. I'm sure he's always watching minor league baseball every night alongside the MLB games, and he's probably looking forward to a lot of these prospects that are going to be coming up soon. But of course, my name is Ethan Smith of the Locked On Pirates podcast. I am the host who does the most. And with that said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you on the flip side.